सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ॐ श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। So good evening everyone. We'll start today's class on Nyaya Sutras. We'll basically keep it in English and maybe alternate with a few words in Hindi if all of you understand. And so we have done up till the second chapter, first part, and completed the 19th sutra so far. 19 सूत्र हमने कर लिए हैं. So Nyaya basically we have studied so far. We have understood it as a system of logic. How we know basically that is the process of Nyaya. To understand the method of knowing, the ways of knowing, and the errors which we come to later on towards the fifth chapter, the errors in our knowledge that tend to distort our knowledge. जो हमारी ज्ञान को कहीं ना कहीं हिंसित कर देते हैं, हमें कुछ गलत अवधारणा दे देते हैं. Because knowing is something that has to be very clear. Our knowledge has to be backed by proper logic. So if there is any error, that error also is to be removed. So in basically Western debating, any kind of what we call logical fallacy, they are tricks. They are tricks to be used to win an argument. But in Nyaya, they are what we call something that has to be spotted so that we don't make the error of judgment, right? So these tricks and these have to be circumvented. हमने इससे ऊपर उठना है. We have to go beyond these tricks. So if we have to do that, we have to examine each and everything that we have postulated. हमने एक सिद्धांत रखा. We have kept forward a theorem, and then we have to establish it in the fullest way. That is why, even though you might have heard that other systems have debated, and I've mentioned this repeatedly also, they have debated and tried to prove some of the aspects of our Shastras as wrong. But actually our Shastra itself does that debating. Within the Shastra itself, it will put an argument and then it will put a counter argument, right? So Purva Paksha is something that creates a counter argument, and then that argument has to be debated. It has to be established by the correct siddhant, the correct system of knowledge. So then, so in this way, when we go into any system of knowledge, we have to be very sure about how to comprehend what we are understanding. So basically, we have seen the four pramanas, the four methods of knowledge, the four ways of knowledge that Nyaya examines. There are more variations, but you can condense one into the other. In fact, all of them you can condense into direct knowledge itself. प्रत्यक्ष प्रमाण में आप सबको अंतर्निहित कर सकते हो. You can collapse them all into direct knowledge. But if that does not remove the importance of others, right? So the most important, the most studied, and the most analyzed, of course, is Anuman Pramana, how to estimate something, and that follows the fivefold process that we use in Nyaya. Using that fivefold process, we are able to understand the way how we are able to prove a certain theorem. So what we call pratigya, hetu, drishtant, Upanay or Nigman. So Pratigya, we uh, give a postulate. Then Hetu, we give a cause why it might be true. Then we give a Drishtanta, we give an example, a living example where something closely resembles what we are trying to prove. Then Upanay, we do the comparison. And then finally Nigaman, the conclusion, which is the same as the Pratigya only, but is said with a force. Right? So if you say something, yes, I know this person. He gets angry a lot of times. And then your friend said, no, 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 I've never seen that guy angry. मैंने तो कभी गुस्सा होते नहीं देखा. So when that person enters the room, you pick on his what we call dukti rag. You tease him something, tease him about something, tease him maybe about even something as simple as his knowledge, and then you get an instant reaction. Then what happens? निगमन हो गया, prove हो गया, इस बंदे को गुस्सा आता है. So in this way, we have to prove something. Then once you proved something, then the argument that you presented comes with a force of knowledge, with the force of certainty. So that is basically the Nigman. But in Nyaya, we are now into the part where we are examining Pratyaksha, right? The direct Praman. So direct is direct, that direct knowledge also, something that you're seeing clearly with your naked eyes, that also we want to examine. Is it correct or not? Because many a time it happens that something that we are seeing, something that we are perceiving, we have begin to have doubts, right? There are some examples like hallucinations. There are some examples like mirage. There are some examples even in our living life when we are in different states. So when we are in the dream state, then whatever we are experiencing is false, right? So Shastra goes beyond and says even the waking state is false. But let's leave that for our Vedant studies. But basically, Nyaya will look at the visible world. हम क्या observe कर रहे हैं? What are we trying to observe? And what is the validity? Within this realm, we are not going beyond this realm. We are staying within this realm and we are trying to establish the validity. So, uh, now next one we are going to examine is Pratyaksha. So in Pratyaksha, we have to check that what we have observed, whether it's correct, whether what we have observed is about a part of the object that we are seeing, whether it is about the whole. So all these things we have to really cover. So let us move on to the next sutra, the 20th sutra of the second chapter, first part, 2.1.20. So for those who have their text maybe on Clubhouse, they can see, and otherwise Nyaya Sutras of Gautam. Otherwise, on Zoom, of course, I'm sharing. So Zoom, I'll just read it out. So even if you don't have the text, you can just listen carefully. So the 20th sutra, what does it say? प्रत्यक्ष लक्षण अनुपपत्ति ही समग्र वचनात्. So what is a pratyaksha lakshanam? So I said samagra vachanat because there is a sandhi there, but it will be asamagra, because anupapatti with that ra which is coming in place of a visarga. So it says pratyaksha lakshan anupapatti asamagra vachanat. So what does it say? That someone can object that what are you observing? So that definition itself that you have given so far, what was the definition? The definition was that perception occurs when the contact of a sense object with its sense or organs takes place. So indriya अर्थ सन्निकर्ष, इंद्रिय और अर्थ का सन्निकर्ष, when they are so closely in contact with each other that the perceiving part, the knowledge part is able to perceive the perceived object, right? So the subject perceives the object, or in this case you can say the instrument of perception is able to perceive the object, right? So like if you say you are looking at something through a microscope, so there actually the perceiver is the eye. But you say that through the microscope you were able to perceive that small bacteria or that small particle which is not visible to the naked eye. So in that case, what will be the instrument? The instrument will be the microscope. It will not be the eye. The eye will be the secondary one. So here we are putting forward two terms. Be very careful. We use this a lot of places. We use it in Vedanta also. So one is Gaun and one is Mukhya. So the chief one. So what is the main object of perception? That is the one that we use. So if you remember the definition of that instrument also, so there the definition also we say that something which is the final source of getting the knowledge, the one that gets in contact. So whenever we do any kind of whenever we use any kind of pramanam, any kind of source of knowledge or any kind of instrument, then that instrument has to be the final one. So in this case, let us see what is the instrument. So if we are doing, we are seeing something through the eye, right? So when we are seeing something through the eye, then the eye is observing the object, but the signal is going to the mind, and then it is going back to the soul, to the consciousness, because without the consciousness we will not be able to analyze that. So what is the objector saying here? His objection, he is saying that you are saying that that pratyaksh lakshanam. What is that pratyaksh lakshanam? How do we do a pratyaksh pramanam? How do we do a direct observation? Yeah, so that is when the sense organ comes in contact. So he's saying your sentence or your postulate is incomplete. So how is it incomplete? I will not say it here. It comes in the next sutra. So basically, he is saying that you are not giving the full range. You are not giving the full range of how that perception is occurring, right? So for that, how do we check that out? The first thing is, we have seen perception is something that is any kind of knowledge that is arising from the contact. So if this definition has other factors, then what are those other factors? So we can look at that for the next sutra. So basically what the objector has said so far is your definition is incomplete. How is it incomplete? Na atma manasah sannikarsha bhave pratyaksha utpatti. So he is saying na atma manaso sannikarsha. So if there is no contact of the atma, the soul, and the manasa, the mind, with the uh, sense organs, then that pratyaksha utpatti, that observation of that perception, that knowledge of perception, it will not take place. So perception, it cannot arise until there is the conjunction of the soul with the mind, right? So there he has to say say is that your definition is incomplete, right? So when we look at it in this way, we always keep in mind that we have given the logic for this earlier. We know the answer, but we have to follow the thread. How is it being said? We know the answer that when we say that any instrument जो है the final one that is doing the act is called the there only the perception is occurring, or there only the action is occurring. So if we are writing with the pen, then the pen is the instrument of writing. Even though we use the hand for writing, even I use my eye for writing, because if I see with the eye, then only I can know what I'm writing. Of course, without the eye you can manage, and then of course there is the consciousness. Without consciousness, your hand itself will not move. But the instrument for writing is the pen, right? That is the definition for that instrument. So when we are talking about this case, he is saying na atma manaso sannikash abhave pratyaksh utpatti. Pratyaksh cannot arise, it cannot be born unless there is behind it the power that is given by the atma and the manasaha. So for this, what does the reply begin with? The reply begins with, first he says there are other causes also. Then you will say they are also there. Then that also, then the list will go on endlessly. So what are those causes? In the 22nd sutra. So 22वें सूत्र में वो क्या कह रहे हैं? दिग देश काल आकाशेषु api eva prasanga. So he says, if you are saying that this atma and this manasaha are what we call additional causes for this knowledge of perception, ये प्रत्यक्ष प्रमाण के सहकारी कारण है. They are the supporting causes of perception, and in fact they might also say it is the main cause, because unless the mind unless the consciousness is there, then that perception will not occur. But we always have to bear in mind, perception is always about one single contact, and that means that the perception is not occurring at the point of the consciousness or the mind. Uh, when the signal is received from the sense organ, then only the perception is actualized, but that does not mean that the mind is making any direct contact with the object. The mind is not having any contact, because what is the mind doing? It is basically analyzing. It is analyzing the information, right? So if you are feeding some information into a software, and the software is analyzing it, then you are the provider of the information, not the software. Software is just doing the work of analyzing. So mind is also the software, and this will analyze this information. But then for any information, any analysis to be done, there are so many other parts of that software, huh? They do different functions. So same way he says dig, desh, kal, akash, api eva prasanga. So then these will also be additional reasons for perception. You need direction, you need space, and you need time. So all these are also there, because like you are examining something, I am able to see a rose. I am looking at that rose. Okay. So when I am looking at it, then I will say, yes, my eyes, chakshuhu, and that rose, that gulab, is coming in contact, and the knowledge of that rose is born. We saw that in Vritti Vyapti and Phal Vyapti earlier also. So I'm not repeating that. Basically what the system is our mind. It moves out towards the object, it envelops the object. Along with it, our consciousness also envelops the object, and through that the knowledge that this is such and so object. And of course, if we have earlier known about the name of that object, then we apply that name also, because if we are able to correlate the name with the certain shape, smell, etc., then we can say, yes, this is a rose. Otherwise we say this is a uh, beautiful red, nice smelling thing that I'm observing. But in any case, whether the name is there or not, you are only analyzing, you are only observing that rose. So when that rose is observed, you will say, yes, of course, mind has to be there, the Atma has to be there. But what other factors are also to be there? Dig, direction. You can't look at the rose, you can't look in the other direction of the rose and say, yes, the rose is there. You have to look at the rose, right? So dig has to be there. Dig has to be there. Then desh also, desh also has to be there. So time, space, object, all these are necessary. So you have to be in the area where that rose is there. You cannot cognize the rose if you are in London and the rose is in India. You have to come to India. So that day you have to be reached. You have to reach there, right? And then Kal, of course. Time, you have to be there at the time the perception is occurring. You can't be there when the rose was here 5 days ago. Now it has wilted and dried and gone into the ground. So you can't cognize or you can't perceive the rose. वहां पे प्रत्यक्ष नहीं हो पाएगा. You will not be able to have any kind of perception, right? Pratyaksh will not happen. So that Pratyaksha Praman has these also as Sahakari Karan, as supporting causes. So these supporting causes you have to take into consideration. So if you are considering the mind and the Atma, then that these also we will have to take into consideration, right? So he says basically that you cannot say that mind and soul are the ones that needed to be included in the definition. Of course, it is implied. It is implied in the definition itself that behind any perception there has to be cognizing, analyzing instrument, and there has to be a consciousness. So it is not necessary that it has to be mentioned. But The point of perception is the contact only, right? So the point of perception, the taking of the hearing or seeing or smelling, whatever kind of action is happening, whatever kind of knowledge is happening, it is through the contact of that particular sense organ. That is why we say that every sense organ has its own sense object, right? So ear will do the job of hearing, the nose will do the job of smelling. So they all give us a different kind of knowledge. Hmm. So remember that also, because it will come up in the next two sutras. So mind will have different kinds of knowledge. And another important point, any single kind of knowledge can appear at any one time only. Other knowledge will have to be subsequent or preceding that. उससे पहले होगा उसकी नॉलेज या उसके साथ, कभी एक साथ नहीं हो सकता. माइंड cannot do two acts of two analysis at the same time, right? So in this way, you have to do that. You can't play 10 different movies on a software at the same time. You have to play one at a time. Hmm. So you play one, and then once that is finished, you play the next one. So in this way also, and how we perceive an object, that also we have done earlier, that it is a composite of different experiences. So the 23rd sutra, Jnana Lingatvat Atmano Na Anavarodha. So the soul has, he is saying, what is the Atma, what uh, he says, Na Anavarodha. We have not ruled out from our definition. That it is the Jnana Linga. So Atma, the consciousness, is necessary for any perception. That we are not ruling out. Because any kind of knowledge is going to happen with only the perceiving power, with the consciousness. Without consciousness, uh, consciousness is the abode, is the house of everything. Within it, the whole universe merges and rests in. So in this way, whatever we are saying about the knowledge, we are not saying that the soul is not necessary. It has never been said. It is implied and understood. ये हम अपने आप अपनी बुद्धि से ही समझ सकते हैं. We can understand this very, very easily, right? So Jnana Lingatvad Atmano Na Anavrodha. So this definition has to be understood as being self-evident. Then what happens is, uh, then why this we have not included? So we move into the 24th sutra, 2.1.24. Tat Yogapatya Lingatvat Na Manasah. So he says that mind also has not been omitted from the definition. That yoga, that connection, that between the mind and the sense organs and the mind and the consciousness, that also has not been ruled out, because we have talked about the non-simultaneously yog path, that all acts of knowledge are non-simultaneous. No two acts of knowledge can occur at the same time. So when we are talking about knowledge, then this knowledge has to be in a simultaneous manner. So ये जब simultaneously होगा, दो knowledge, when two kinds of knowledge will happen together, then the mind will take one kind of knowledge, analyze it, give a feedback about that knowledge, and then that second kind of knowledge also will also appear. So now when we look at this factor about the mind, which has been said in the earlier sutra, he is saying that it is not included in your definition. He is saying it is not needed to be included. It is there understood. It is there in a naturally understood way. It is understood that uh, this mind has to be there for any kind of analysis of the knowledge or the inputs that have been received from the sense organ. जब इंद्रिय से कोई सिग्नल मिलेगा तभी तो मन उसको एनालाइज करेगा ना. When the signal has been received, then only the mind will analyze. As long as the signal is not there, there is nothing to analyze, right? So when the sense organs get in contact with the sense objects, that signal is received, it is sent to the mind, mind will analyze. So that part we are not denying. We are just saying that the primary part is the first action, the first point. Which is the first point? The contact of sense organs and the sense object. वो होना पड़ेगा. So in this way, we have to be careful when we say that in a definition, we have to be very particular. We have to talk only about the thing that is being talked. Otherwise, we will stray into so many different realms. We will get into a lot of confusion. So this confusion, if it is to be avoided, then we have to be very careful that this knowledge has to be understood in it, all the uh, variations, but we have to be very specific that what we are talking about, that our focus should be there. So what we are talking about here is that knowledge or pratyaksham occurs at the point of contact of the sense organs with the sense object. I'm repeating this again and again so it sticks in your mind, because even though it's known to you, it might seem simple to you, but once you have a firm knowledge of that, then never will a doubt come to your mind, right? So this mind, here saying tad yogapat lingatvad na manasa. So mind has not been na manasa. The mind has not been omitted, because we have talked about the non-spontaneous, non-simultaneity of acts of knowledge. So whenever two kinds of knowledge occur, uh, one has to be perceived first, then comes the second, and we can of course form a composite picture using those different knowledges to get a picture of all the objects around us, right? So we don't see it clear easily when we are observing one single scene. We are able to see all the objects, but remember, when we are looking at one single scene also, there are certain parts of that we will not perceive unless we focus on that, right? You are looking at the sky. There is a small star in the corner. You might not notice it, but you have to turn your attention towards that, right? Once you do that, you will know about it. So, same way with all the parts of the sky that you're observing. You think that you are seeing the whole sky, but no, it is always the area that you're looking at. That area, it gives you certain knowledge, and that is also subdivided into parts. Hmm, what we call homogeneous parts, right? So if there is a 1 foot by 1 foot area of sky that has no variation, hmm, then that is one object. Then that is one object being perceived. Sometimes it might be a 10 foot by 10 foot, 100 by 100, 1000 by 1000, billion by billion. Doesn't matter. As long as there is homogeneity, there is no difference, then you can treat it as one single object. But sometimes in a single painting, there will be thousands and thousands of color combinations. So all of these you are observing because your mind is taking the input of each and every different parts of that image and for understanding the composite picture. So that is yogapatyam. That is non-simultaneously. That is the uh, simultaneous observation of objects gives you a composite picture. So, so in this way, what basically we will not lose sight of the argument. The argument is that manasaha, the mind, has been included in this definition, right? So when this definition is given, that mind is assumed to be there. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि मन ना हो, right? So that is how we understand. So now we look into the next sutra. What is the further part of that argument? So what he's saying is प्रत्यक्ष निमित्तवाच्य इंद्रिय अर्थयोः सन्निकर्षस्य. Okay, someone is asking something. प्रत्यक्ष निमित्तवाच्य, this is the 25th sutra. प्रत्यक्ष निमित्तत्वात् च इंद्रिय अर्थयोः सन्निकर्षस्य पृथक वचनम. So when we are talking about the indriya artha sannikarsh, when the contact of a sense organ with the sense object, then uh, we are this is a pratyaksha nimitvat, because there is a direct knowledge occurring there. Prithak vachanam, it is a special cause of perception. So when there are, within the knowledge itself, within any perception itself, as I was saying earlier also, within a particular knowledge, there are different kinds of perception. Within one single perception that we say, as I said, we are looking at a picture, there are so many different kinds of knowledge. That knowledge may be in the form of the different instruments of our all instruments that we use, right? So as we say, the five sense organs, the five organs of knowledge, panch gyanendriya, all these five will give different inputs, right? So the eye will give you eye knowledge, which is seeing. The ear will give you ear knowledge, which is hearing. The nose will give you nose knowledge, which is smelling. The skin will give you touch knowledge, which is knowing the texture of an object. And so the tongue will give you the knowledge of the taste. So all of these five will give you different knowledge about even a single object. Every single object will have all these five. So all of these are uh, five different kinds of knowledge, but the mind will analyze them and merge them into one knowledge. So every single object will have all these. So contact of sense with this object is mentioned as a special cause of perception. So there is different kinds of perception occurring when we do this contact. So we saw in the previous sutra that mind has not been omitted. So now we are coming to the point of contact. So when we are at the point of contact, this point of contact, we have to keep in mind that at the point of contact, the sense organs are able to give different kinds of knowledge. Each sense organ will give a certain different kind of knowledge. So when this knowledge is being provided to the mind, then what uh, what is the importance of that knowledge that is being given by the sense organs and the mind? So we are basically going to be establishing the primary cause, which is the main one. कौन सा गौण है, कौन सा मुख्य है? Mukhya, the main one, गौण is the secondary one. So what does this say? We are into the 26th sutra. So what does this say? Supt avyakt manasah cha indriya arth sannikarsh nimittatvat. So supt when we are sleeping, in the state of deep sleep, or even in the state of dream, both are covered here, right? Even one is mentioned, but both are understood. Then avyakt. Avyakt, you can say you can in a way say the dream state also, but avyakt is basically when you are not paying attention, you are inattentive, you are not looking at the sense object. So Supt and Avyakt, Manasaha, the mind. So mind can be in these two states, besides the third state, which is the state of attention, the state of observing, the state of pratyaksham, when it is directly observing what the sense organs are giving input. But the mind may have these two states also, Supt, Avyakt. So in that state, what is happening to the Indriya Artha Sannikasha? Uh, in that case, there also perception can be produced. Normally, it is not produced. When you are sleeping, you are not doing any act of perception. You are not doing any kind of hearing, smelling, right? But you take a very foul smelling object and take a shoe maybe, and put it in front of a sleeping person's nose. उठ जाएगा कि नहीं? Will he wake? So he will. Yes, your dirty socks. So in this way, that person, even though he's sleeping, or even if he's inattentive, that attention will instantly come back. Hmm. So in this way, a lot of other things. Someone is sleeping and you try to waking him up. You're shaking him. He is not listening. Then you suddenly shout, give loud shout. So then suddenly he'll just wake up. Oh, kya hua? What happened? What happened? So he will wake up. So that means the mind is there. Mind is there. It is just being inattentive. And where is the perception taking place? Where is that basically the pramanam is working at the level of the sense organs. The sense organ is in, right. So while sleeping, which is the pramanam which is not working? Can anyone tell quickly which pramanam is not working while you are sleeping? I think we are out of time on Zoom, so just give us a minute. I'll take just reconnect. Okay, sorry for the interruption. So we are cut back on Zoom. So welcome back, everyone. So now what we are looking at is the supt and avyakt state, where the mind is in a state of sleep, or it is in a state of being inattentive. Its focus is on some other objects. George, you are asking something. Please go ahead. Were you referring to dreaming or deep sleep? Yeah, dreaming also same thing. In reference to this sutra, dreaming also is a state. There is a state of deep sleep, which is sushupti. There is a state of dream, which is swapnavastha. So both of these states are states of the mind. These are, we say, included in that supta. So in both of these states, the mind is not perceiving something. So I ask you a question. During that state, one of the sense organs is not going to function. Which one will not function? The eyes, because the eyes are closed. Yeah, right, obviously. Huh? So eyes are closed, so eyes will not function. Huh? But others you can't block out. Huh? So that is why when you are waking someone up, or you are giving an impulse to someone, it has to be the other four, right? You have to put something near the nose of the person, something foul smelling, so he'll wake up or pay attention. Or you have to shout something. So when you shout something near the ear, that person will again wake up. And then again, by skin, by touch, you pinch him, or you shake him up, so that person will wake up. And the fourth one is, of course, less likely, but you pour something into someone's mouth and he will also wake up. More from the gagging than from the taste, right? हाँ, मम्मा का थप्पड़ तो टच में हो गया ना, that is included in touch. So all of these will wake you up. So when you are not ready for school or college or work, and your parents want to wake you up, then you are going to get a treatment, right? So in this way, in that supt and avyakt, there also perception will take place, provided the impulse is strong enough. When the impulse is strong enough, then the mind will be jolted. So what is the primary source of knowledge there? Where is that perception occurring? Pratyaksh kahan pe ho raha hai? Perception is occurring at the level of the sense organs, the indriya and the sense objects, the artha. So indriya artha sannikarsh mein hi pratyaksh hota hai. So that is the main point. The other is there, of course. They are the sahkari karan. They are the supporting causes. So in this way, this act of perception occurs, right? So basically, the author is trying to establish clearly that perception when it occurs, then that perception is at the point of contact of the sense organs with the sense objects. So when this happens, then you can say that this knowledge is occurring. So then we move on to the next sutra, the 27th one, right? So what is this sutra saying? तैश्चप देश ज्ञान विशेषाणाम. So if you split it up, तैहि च अपदेशः ज्ञान visheshanam. So here it won't be a visheshanam. Why, George? I think you're studying Sanskrit. How will you split the sandhi as? Will it be gyan avisheshanam or gyan visheshanam?
Jnana
Hmm.
Visheshanam.
Yeah, yeah,
Visheshanam means
yeah, Vishesh. Because there is a matra e before va. Huh? So if it was, if there was a there, then it could have been vish. If the e was not there, then it would have been a visheshanam. So, so by the taihi, by them, them, uh, taihi is which vibhakti? The tritiya in the bahuvachan. So sa taute tam tautan ten tabhyam taihi. Sa is used for that or him, and when you say by him, so that is in the third case. So third case plural you are using this for the sense organs. So by the senses, tehi cha apadesha, special kinds of knowledge, jnana visheshanam. So these five different kinds of special knowledge are occurring by this contact. This we saw earlier also. So here it is given as uh, given in a definite form. So all these perceptions, the auditory perception, the visual perception, the olfactory perception, the taste perception or gustatory perception, and the touch perception, all are these. All of these are the five different kinds of perceptions that occur when a contact of a sense object happens with its respective sense organ. So these are occurring. So their pramanam is happening at that point. That is what is being said here. So that is why when the mind is analyzing something, it will be able to analyze only from the particular sense organ that is giving that knowledge, right? So we saw in the case of sleep also. We saw in the case of sleep also, there what is happening? Eye is not functioning. So I will not be able to wake up the person. You have to open up that eye, and maybe then also it won't be working. So the chakshu indriya is not working. So only knowledge will be available from the remaining four sense organs and their sense objects. So in any kind of perception that is occurring, we can't consider mind or the soul as the primary cause, because they function only after input is received, right? If this input is received, then also, then so if you are playing a game, you can't say that the computer is the primary cause of the game. The software of the game is the primary cause. If the software is not there, then you cannot play the game, right? So unless that software is installed, then there are the computer has so many different functions. It's not just playing a game. It can be watching a movie. It can be doing some writing work or whatever on different kinds of text writing software and all. So in this way, when we are talking about Vishesha Jnanam, any special kind of knowledge, then we have to understand that all the sense organs give their own Vishesha Jnanam, and also it's very important to always remember they never interfere with each other. The eye can never smell. Can someone smell with their eye? Has someone special psychic powers? I hope not. So uh, always every sense organ will be able to do its action in its own kshetra, in its own field. So eye can only see, the ear can only hear, and so on. So all of these are Gyan Visheshanam. They are special kinds of knowledge. And therefore, that clearly indicates that perception occurs at those special points only. When that perception occurs at that point, the signal is further sent, and then that is analyzed down the line by the mind and the soul, right? So now another objection is raised by the person, or you can say it is raised by the writer himself. That is the technique of teaching in Hindu Shastras. You have a Purva Paksha that is raised by someone, and then that is answered by the teacher. But sometimes the Purva Paksha is raised by the writer, who himself analyzes all the objections that might come, and then he answers them. So what does he say? Vyahritvat hetu. So he's saying that there has to be some kind of uh, uh, objection to this, because this act of perception that is occurring, it is saying, it may be objected that the contact of a sense with its object is not the cause of perception. Uh, Vyaharitvad, as it is inefficient in some instances. So basically, what he's talking about is there sometimes it is happening that you are observing something, and then that uh, impulse or that impact or that knowledge is not registering. It is not registering, even though are you looking. Huh. So sometimes your mind is on your girlfriend far away. You're thinking about her, or your boyfriend, whatever the case might be, and then your mother calls you and says your name, George, Manisha, whatever, and you are not listening, even though the sound is there, right? So there he is saying ki, what happens is you are at some you are perceiving something else, or it may be that you are engrossed in watching a movie, you are looking at a beautiful scene, or you're looking or maybe you are eating something that is very delicious, and you don't notice other things happening around you. Sometimes even a forced impulse is not registered by you because you're so engrossed, right? So he's saying that the contact of a sense or object with its sense organs, the perception is not occurring, right? So how can you say that perception occurs at that point only? So what is the answer to that he gives in the next sutra? So na arth vishesh prabalya. Prabalya. There is a strength factor for every perception. Sometimes there is one perception that is overpowering other perception. It is that does not mean that the other perception does not happen. Sometimes no, you later on you remember, oh, I was watching that movie, but in between something I observed on the side, I watched some person he was teasing another girl at the corner. You didn't notice at that time, but later on someone asks you, did you see? And then you say, yes, 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 yes. Yes, I remember something happening. So sometimes the prabalya, na arth vishesh, that special perception that is occurring, or a particular perception that is occurring, it is so strong, prabalya. Then the other perception gets suppressed. The other perception gets suppressed. So he's saying that it is not that what you were saying in the previous sutra, according to your objection, that uh, some certain kinds of perceptions do not occur because even though the organ and sense object are coming in contact, it does not occur. He's saying it occurs, but you don't notice. Huh? You notice the stronger perception. That is the one that stays with you, and in this way you are able to see to that earth vishesh, that particular perception which is stronger, you are able to register more strongly. So we have seen earlier also that all the different perceptions come in parts. Every perception comes in succession. So one sub perception will occur, then another, and then only you form a composite picture. So out of that you might miss something, right? There is a picture and you see, say you go to uh, Rome, and then you go to the Vatican. In Vatican, there is that famous what is that, Sistine Chapel, right? Sistine Chapel. So Sistine Chapel, you go, and there's this, by Michelangelo. There is a huge wall fresco, there's a huge painting, right? And in that, below that, there is you see there is a demon who's eating someone. So that scene, even though you looked at the whole picture, you might not remember. You might not see. Why? Because Artha Vishesha Prabalya. Right? There your focus is on some other beautiful or more noticeable aspect. So even though you saw the painting, you will not remember. Someone will might tell it to you. There are certain lot of beautiful books and novels where they point out these features of those paintings that normally a person does not notice. Certain hidden aspects, certain, I will not even say hidden, they are visible, plain in plain sight, but yet you fail to register them. When someone tells you, then you notice, oh yeah, oh, I never saw this, I never noticed this. So that is Artha Vishesha Prabalyat, because there is preeminence of some other act of perception, you tend to suppress the other ones. You don't tend to notice, or you don't tend to, because maybe the other perception is less, is minute, it's because of size or maybe prominence, right? So in this way others are not noticed, and it also depends on your mental attachment with a particular perception also, right? How much you are attached to something that you are seeing. So if I look at, I think time is up, and um, I, the next topic is about how perception or direct perception is actually indirect perception also. प्रत्यक्ष अनुमान ही है. So we are trying to judge the line of separation between pratyaksham and anumanam. So I think we'll take that up in the next class, because today time is up, and we'll continue for that in the next class. So I think we'll wind up for today, and we'll move into the next sutra, 30th sutra, in the next class, right? ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम ओम तत्सत. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for coming to the class. I hope you enjoyed it. Any questions, you can always ask me later also. Yeah. Anyone has a question right now, you can ask also. Anything? Anyone on Manisha, George, anyone wants to ask? Or is it clear today? I don't think much complicated. The topic was pretty simple today. Still, if any questions you have,
Yeah.
okay?
Nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah, nothing for me.
nothing. Anything, George?
And nothing that comes to mind. I think
Okay.
compared to the previous um, classes on Vedanta, this one is much more straightforward.
Yeah, the Nyaya actually is pretty straightforward. Of course, you have to analyze, but the most of the analysis has been done by the writer himself. So in this way, you are able to understand more clearly. So I think we will continue then in the next class, right? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So those on Zoom, stay around. We will talk. Damn, ended